So if you're like me and you're on the path to speaking Spanish, you're studying the language, or you're in the process of gaining fluency, that is the objective, that's where you're headed. How is it best to get there? What's the best approach to doing so? There are so many options available today. It is overwhelming. I really believe that. There's all the technology available to you via language learning apps. There's online courses. There's traditional courses. You can go to a classroom and sit down with someone. You can have someone video in from a South American country on a daily basis to speak with you. You can hire personal teachers and tutors that would love to send you down the path. You can take classes online. There's free stuff on YouTube. It is insane the number of options we have available today. Yet, I think there's probably a good approach to leveraging this and figuring out what works best for you. My name is Scott Bryant, and I'm one of these guys that, gosh, for years, I've tried so many different things. I feel like I'm pretty well suited to talk about this topic, and I'm going to provide some thoughts on that, particularly in light of objectives and what you're really trying to accomplish and what is necessary. In short, I will tell you, I think most people need a little bit of a guide, if you will. Not a teacher, not a tutor, but someone to just advise and send you down the right path and help you readjust as needed. So we're going to discuss that and much, much more in today's video. So as we get started, I just want to share the idea that although there's a ton of different options available to start your journey around speaking Spanish, I would posit that you might need various different approaches along the journey to get you to where you want to be in the most expeditious manner, right? I'm all about strategy and efficiency and starting with the end in mind, knowing exactly where we want to get to, knowing it's going to be a long journey, so thinking about the best steps to get there. In the ideal sense, you would have a guide. You would have someone to advise you. Somebody that has done it, has worked with all different modalities for learning, and help you figure out the best path to get there, given your needs, desires, time constraints, money constraints, all this stuff. Can you find that? I don't know. We'll talk. I'm hoping that as we get further in this discussion today, you'll have some ideas about things to think about as you go down this path. So let's get started with that. What's the best approach to learning the language? Well, gosh, there's so many options. Traditionally, that has always happened in the classroom, right? Be it at school, college, high school, whatever. Of course, there's classrooms that exist as adults. They're all over in cities. There's one here in Austin. Absolutely great. Get together once a week with 15, 20 people in a group setting, and you learn the language, right? You get assignments, you go home, you study. But all that said, there's so much more. There's not a lesson that can't be found on YouTube on any topic, be it absolute beginner to the most advanced of advanced things. I am continually blown away, and most of that stuff is free, or certainly dirt cheap. And the people that teach it for free, of course, offer classes that would be online as well, which you can always participate in. There's tutors, there's so many different options there. I would argue that is this. If you had a guide that said, hey, my role is to advise you on how best to proceed, they would just simply ask the questions that I'm proposing right now, which is, what are you trying to do? What's the time frame to get there? How much money do you spend? Do you want to spend or not spend? Do you want to travel and have to participate at a fixed time once a week? Do you like to do homework? Would you rather doing it on your schedule whenever you want to? You can do these things on a phone, right? Duolingo is insanely helpful, all those language learning apps. That's why they're so popular, because they're available 24/7. They fit a very busy lifestyle. But as soon as I say that, I guarantee you, these adult classroom offerings that exist for learning the language are popular. And they're popular because some people just love the social interaction and meeting other like-minded people trying to do the same thing. There's a lot there. Look, if you see this and you want my guidance or thoughts, I'm happy to sit down with anybody for 30 minutes. You can reach out to me. My website information is below. There's an email there. You can get in contact and I'll discuss with you what might be the best approach for you. But I would argue that most people can probably figure this out on your own, knowing that it's going to take time. None of this stuff happens quickly. Although the language acquisition piece is much quicker, I believe, than the training the skill of speaking. So let's move to that now. So let's assume we've moved to the phase where we're now focused on the skill, training for the skill of speaking Spanish. Very different than learning the language. And oh, by the way, no one does this. No one does this. And this is why there's so few people that really have fluency as an adult, having learned the language. Nobody's doing this. And that's why I'm recording these videos, because I do it and it worked really well. I think in this phase, you absolutely need a guide. And honestly, that is the role that I can provide. My belief is when you practice speaking, you do it by yourself for the most part. We're talking about practice. We ultimately want to speak with others. That's the goal. That's where we're headed. But the practice happens alone. It's where you practice a musical instrument, whatever it is. It's a solitary activity. And you don't need someone there, nor would you want someone there to help you practice. But it's super helpful to check in with somebody periodically, share your practice, and get guidance on the challenges you're having and where you need to go next. So it's not something that you need to do every day or even every week. It could be once a month. It's whatever fits your schedule, but it's a long process. The art of learning to speak another language, which requires this practice and this training for the skill of speaking, it takes time. I mean, when I say time, a year plus, could be more, could be less, but let's call that a rough time frame. That's after you learn the language, right? You're rewiring the brain. When you open your mouth and words just flow naturally, it doesn't happen overnight. So this is where I feel like a guide can be super powerful and helpful. Again, you don't want somebody breathing down your neck, watching you, talking to you, speak. A tutor in this phase for me is premature. You're not ready for dialogue with other humans. You just need to practice speaking. And this is where a guide can be super effective because you can check in, you can share the practice you're doing with that person and get guidance and advice and learn, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? How can I advance, etc. And it's just a light touch, keep you on track, help you get to the promised land. That is where I think a guide can be super helpful in that phase. So to pull all this together, the issue that I think we all have today is not lack of information. There is so much content, such amazing content. It's evolving. There's so much technology. There's a whole class of language learning apps that are AI-based, such that you're speaking to them and getting real-time feedback and adjusting. And there are so many different things you can use to help you on your journey that, again, I think this concept of having an advisor or someone that knows you and understands your objectives and can help you on the journey. And most importantly, knowing that it's a long journey. I cannot emphasize enough the fact that it is a big challenge. Opening your mouth and the words just simply come out in a different language it takes time. So just food for thought. If your aim is true and you really are passionate and have this hardcore objective of gaining speaking fluency, it absolutely can be done. And I believe it all starts with strategy and guidance. And look, as I offered previously in the video, I'm happy to advise on certainly the getting started and can explain more about my methodology if that's of interest to anyone. So anyway, thank you for your time today.